Aren't we?
When you talk to Justin Trudeau again, is there anything he can give you at 3 p.m. when you talk again to also secure a pause, like you said, with Mexico?
I don't know. We have big deficits with Canada, like we do with all countries. I mean, I look at some of the deals made, I say, who the hell made these deals are so bad? But with Canada, I have a talk with him, and you maybe know or maybe not. We're going to meet again or talk again at 3 o'clock, right after my next meeting. And we'll see what happens. I can't tell you what's going to happen.
You mentioned that he could agree to change your mind on the tariffs?
Well, we can always, look, what I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection, military protection. We don't need them to build our cars. I'd rather see Detroit or South Carolina or any one of our, Tennessee, any one of our states build the cars. They could do it very easily. We don't need them for the cars. We don't need them for lumber. We don't need them for anything. We don't need them for energy. We have more energy than they do. We don't need them for energy. So I say, why are we doing this? Why are we willing to lose between $100 billion and $200 billion a year? We don't need them. As a state, it's different. As a state, it's much different. And there are no tariffs. So I'd love to see that, but some people say that would be a long shot. If people wanted to play the game right, it would be 100% certain that they'd become a state. But a lot of people don't like to play the game because they don't have a threshold of pain. And there would be some pain, but not a lot. The pain would be really theirs.
Well, there you go. There's a negotiator for you. Good evening. Good Monday evening. It's February 3rd, 2025. Welcome to episode 97 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And a little somewhat unprepared for tonight's broadcast. And it's been a really busy weekend for the both of us, having just returned home yesterday afternoon. And today was largely spent unpacking and putting things back in their rightful place. But we do have a few things wanted to jump on this evening and talk about. And we're glad that you guys have decided to join us. Hogs 14's in the house. Good evening. Love to see you.
Bill, without training wheels.
That's right. How you guys doing this evening? Hope everybody's staying warm and dry in this blustery winter weather. I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but here in Northern California, it has been raining cats and dogs. We had a little bit of a reprieve yesterday with some misty weather, but back again right now, it is out there just flat getting it. It's hammering. We are being hit by the atmospheric river, or used to be called the Pineapple Express, but maybe that's just not politically correct anymore because it might socially, or what do they, culturally appropriate people or something like that. But anyhow, yeah, we have been getting hammered, have we not?
We have.
Yeah.
I mean, we need it. So on one hand, it's good.
Right. Yeah. One of the things, golly, guys, one of the things that's changed recently, and I'm sure you guys are on board with what we're seeing. Everybody's seeing the same thing. But anytime we're talking about anything that's newsworthy, you know, in an hour, things have changed. And what you may have wanted to talk about previously is now old news. And that's what we're seeing. The news cycle's just like blazing away at light speed with Donald Trump in the White House. Would you not say, Rebecca?
Absolutely. He is a busy man.
Yeah. Well, aside from all of that politics and the news, what's going on with you? How are you doing this evening?
Well, I feel blessed. We've had the reports of some crashes, plane crashes. And so it makes me just cherish the people who are around me even more, and thankful that they are still in my lives. I'm sad for those who have lost people, but very happy that I have everybody around me.
Yeah. It's a lot of tragedy, unfortunately. And I don't know, it just seems weird to me that there's so much of that in the news lately. You know, there seems to be a lot of tragedy in the air, but I'm not sure if that's just a hypersensitivity to that, or that just seems to be the thing to talk about on the news these days, but it seems like an awful lot, right?
Yeah, more so.
Yeah, I don't like flying. It's never been one of the things that's really been something I've enjoyed doing. I'll do it, when it's necessary, but it's not my preferred method of travel. I don't like putting my hands in other people's fate. I would rather be piloting my own ship, if you know what I'm saying. And I don't know. We've been flying. Rebecca and I have flown a few different places, and it's not cool when things happen up in the air. People start freaking out and screaming, and I can recall a couple of different times where weird shit that the plane is making these noises and people are looking around like, what's that? What's going on? And stewardess has her doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, bad turbulence, all of that. You're kind of vulnerable. But
kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
You're very vulnerable.
Yeah. Obviously a lot of people travel every day. Millions of people fly every day, and they say that you're less likely to be a victim of a plane crash than, it just getting in your car and driving. That's all obviously dangerous too. But again, I like to be the captain of my own ship.
So I would like to say hello to Spags. And Bill Warner says it is like springtime in the 60s and 70s for him.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love to hear that, man. It's been really warm here, man. It's just warm out there. It's like 60 degrees and it's a warm rain. So it's definitely that subtropical influence. And it's been that way for, I don't know, the last 5-6 days around here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I just got back yesterday from the race that I had entered, and we traveled down to Sonoma County, and I ran, or attempted to run, the Lake Sonoma 100-mile race. However, I only made it 62 miles because they decided to cancel the race 17 hours into the race. And I was just ready to head back out on another loop and complete the final 38 miles. But I was advised, hey, the bridge has washed out, the one that you were going to be crossing. And so everybody's being pulled off the course, and we're going to, for safety reasons, decide to pull people back. And so I don't know. I have to say I wasn't extremely heartbroken, because anytime you're running one of these things, you're in a lot of pain. And at the time, I could have finished it, but I wasn't heartbroken. That meant I could stop and go in and take a shower and lay down on the bed and do my thing. But yeah, I would have liked to have finished it. I felt as though I would have been able to finish it, but it was a tough race because it rained for the entire 17 hours that I was out there from start to finish. And the course was extremely destroyed. It was just water, torrents of water running down the trails. And it got super chopped up, very muddy, very slippery in a lot of spots. And so that additional amount of challenge puts a toll on you. It exercises muscles that you don't typically exercise when you're running. So it just does have an impact. And typically I finish somewhere around 15 hours on 100K on that course. But I was 2 hours over that because of the weather, and I definitely was feeling it. So anyhow, it was a successful day nonetheless, and we're back home safe.
We are, and we also had a few more folks enter, and I'd like to say hello to them. Good evening. It's Gaines Girl, and I believe Emily Hines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and William Zegley.
Yeah, good evening, you guys. Glad to see that you've joined us. And some of you may recall in a recent episode, pretty recent, we're now episode 97, but this dates back to episode 90 of this broadcast. And I highlighted a United States program called USAID. And that was right during the North Carolina event where they had experienced hurricanes. Very devastating. And the federal government at that time was giving the residents there $750 in aid. Meanwhile, at the very same time, President Joe Biden was on a foreign trip giving millions of dollars that had been earmarked for the African nation of Angola through this program called USAID. And that agency right now is garnering a lot of attention based on recent decision that President Trump has made, kind of in cooperation with the Department of Governmental Efficiency, where they are looking at every last dollar that is being spent and finding out, hey, is this something really worth our while, guys? You know, of course, I'm sure a lot of people are actually just learning about that agency for the first time right now, as it's become really high profile in the news. You've got a lot of people out there screaming about, oh, you're taking money away from all these poor people. And, you know, I'm certain that there's probably some good that comes of foreign assistance, but, you know, we really do need to kind of pull back things to find out, is that money being well spent? And so here's kind of the latest that they're talking.
At the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, in Washington were told to stay home this morning. The main office closed. They received an email shortly after midnight telling them, don't come in. This is the latest development on the future of USAID after both President Trump and, maybe more importantly, Elon Musk said it needed to be shut down.
It's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
Yeah, most of the people that are probably screaming with their hair on fire have never heard of this agency. And now that they've heard about it, they're all pissed off because the orange man has decided to rein things back in.
Well, I know personally for me, I had not heard of it, but the title of it makes me think that it's like, if I only go for just the title, it to me seems like it would be financial aid for students.
Sure. Well, it's financial aid for a bunch of foreign countries, and it's tied directly to the United Nations and the World Economic Forum.
So these people who are screaming and hollering, I would say they don't realize that their taxpayer money is actually going to another country.
Well,
and not.
That could very well be the case. I think a lot of people believe that it's going there and it's being, you know, used philanthropically, and it's doing such a large benefit to some of these countries. And to that point, I'm sure that it probably is in some regard. However, the problem is once money leaves from our country to their country, there's really no firm mechanisms to ensure how that money's actually being spent. It's said that it's going for this thing that we've agreed that that's how it's going to be utilized. However, how are we actually keeping track of that when we can't even keep track of our own budgetary expenditures here in this country? So they are trying to take a look at this right now and get a handle on it. And as I reported earlier, this is what's considered there's a number of these different independent governmental agencies. And so while it is part of the executive branch, independent government agencies are insulated from presidential control. And it's usually because the president's power to dismiss the agency head or a member is limited. But what that means for the president's ability to impact other agency personnel regarding their ability to continue within their job or have specific security clearance really remains to be seen. I suspect that, you know, this is another of Trump's decisions that will play itself out eventually. And of course, because I stated back in that episode, this is a $50 billion industry. That's how much aid we give to all these varying different countries, most of them third world countries. And it was founded in 1961 by John F. Kennedy. And so I think at that time it probably was like, hey, this is a good thing for us to do, but it's a leveraging mechanism for us to get these countries to do things in our interest. But I would ask you, Rebecca, what do you think? Do you think that it's a good idea, or what would you say to the people who are in direct opposition of Trump's decision to pull this back, this agency?
I think if they understood it more, if they knew exactly what was going on, their opinion would change drastically.
Most people would, but you have to understand that there's a lot of people that have Trump derangement syndrome, and that anything that comes from Trump or somebody associated or affiliated with Trump or somebody associated with the opposite party that they're aligned with, they're going to have a knee-jerk reaction probably to not worry about that. And they're just going to take what they hear at face value instead of doing a little bit of research on their own. I learned of this because I'm a conspiracy theorist, as they say. When you start digging into things that, they don't really tell you on the mainstream news, the propagandists in the mainstream legacy media, they don't inform you of programs like this and tell you what they're really all about, you get labeled conspiracy theorist. But, it proves once again that just with a little bit of research on your own, you'll come to learn things, and sometimes they bear fruit, just as it has here with USAID.
Hug says he thinks 50 million for condoms is a bit much.
Yeah.
And then Spags also has a comment.
Yeah, Spags says that something doing an amount of good doesn't make it good. I'm sure that the children of tyrants eat well on stolen goods. That's good for those children, but morally good. Yeah, I agree with you, man. 100%. You're spot on there. Just because there's a little bit of good being done doesn't cover up all the other bullshit and the corruption and the laundering that's going on with taxpayer dollars. Those are your and I dollars that we should have some level of transparency as to how it's being spent. And I applaud the current administration for going in there and being like a bull in the china closet and breaking some shit.
And not wasting any time.
No, people are freaking out about it, man, because they're just not used to seeing this. It's very refreshing. Mm-hmm. I will say that even little Marco, who Trump, belittled in the first time that Trump was running, has come around, and apparently he's on board with what's taking place. But this is apparently something that was a thorn in his side dating back years into his senatorial, career. Check this out.
Well, look, my frustration with USAID goes back to my time in Congress. It's a completely unresponsive agency. It's supposed to respond to policy directives of the State Department, and it refuses to do so. So the functions of USAID, there are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue, that are going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. I said very clearly during my confirmation hearing that every dollar we spend and every program we fund, will be aligned with the national.
Well, isn't that refreshing? Mm-hmm. To do a little bit of accountability and to have an expectation that the money that is being spent on our behalf is being well spent. I don't know how that's like a real problem. Do you find that to be a problem? And again, what would you say to those who are in opposition of us digging down, or the administration currently digging down and actually getting some accountability? Do you have any opposition, Rebecca, or what would you say to those folks?
I think that they should educate themselves more and get a better idea as to where things are going, like I said before. And then I think that there are folks whose opinions will change drastically when they find out that we're in this huge deficit, mm-hmm. but yet have money to send somewhere else.
Yeah, Bill Warner says we have trillions of dollars in deficit and we have billions to give in foreign aid. Yeah, apparently true on both ends, kind of, sort of. I don't think we really have much to give. We don't,
but money's going. So
right.
I mean, if you look at that, here we are. We owe all this money.
Yeah,
or we're in debt.
You know what I think's going on here to some extent is that this is another one of those programs that was created with good intentions, and then throughout the years, it's just been one of those little things that's off to the side that, we're just going to continue this thing without any real, effective oversight. And it's just like one of those I don't know what you call them, white whales or what have you. It's just money that just kind of just keeps getting going. And I'm just going to keep voting to fund this thing because that's what people have always done. And that's been the problem with our government, is that there's so many people that go along to get along. And when you have somebody in there who's disruptive, like is going on now, I mean, I'm telling you, it's been a fucking breath of fresh air, right? It's been an amazing thing to see, and understand that it's only been 2 weeks since Trump's been there. I started to try to put together a broadcast tonight about an hour ago, and things have changed within that hour. That first video that I played hadn't even happened until a few minutes before I went onto this broadcast. I was like, oh, so Canada actually capitulated, right? He was talking about, well, I'm going to have a meeting at 3 p.m. Well, that meeting's already taken place. What do you think happened? Canada backed down, didn't that?
Yeah. Well, I didn't get a chance to hear it, but I'm assuming that they do. I mean, Trump is very good at what he does. I believe Mexico as well.
Right.
Has
it's the difference between, again, as I said last week, the difference between having a bureaucrat and versus having a boss. It's somebody who knows how to negotiate and to make things happen when you have leverage. And he's done that his entire career. And even before he was a politician, you can go back decades when he was a young man, and he's talking about all of these same things about how these countries are ripping us off. And the thing that's like really amazing to me is, I'm sure you guys have all seen the presidential picture of Donald Trump when in 2017, he's sitting there like, oh, hey, with this happy-go-lucky smile on his face, right? And then you contrast that to the presidential picture that he took for this year that's going to be hung as his portrait. He looks fucking scary, man. He looks like he's aged a bit because of all the bullshit he's had to go through. He's 4 years older, and he looks 4 years older, but he ain't smiling. And I don't know if that was not completely intentional, because, he's coming in with, I had no idea that he was going to be this aggressive. I don't know what you thought, but I mean, I thought, oh, he's going to come in and, he's going to make some things happen. I did not think it was going to be like this.
Yeah, I don't think that I thought that he was going to be as aggressive as he is. However, I am pleased that he is. I mean, I think he realizes that he has 4 years and a whole lot of stuff to get done, and a lot of resistance that's going to go along with it.
Right. And I would just reiterate, this is just what I have to keep reminding myself, more or less, because I am so thrilled with how things are taking place. You have to understand that on the other side of the thought process is there's a lot of people that aren't feeling that way. They're feeling like shock and awe is fucking like on steroids. This has got to be just blowing their top, because he's completely bypassing their relevance from the standpoint of the establishment. He's going around them. He's just making shit happen, like lowering the bar for bureaucratic red tape, and just boom, it's happening right now. And before they have a chance to get pissed off about it, they're on to something else. And he really does need to step up his game on the old the security thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, fucking A, man, you can't imagine how many people want him dead. And that sucks to say, but that's just the reality of how we live and stuff, not only in this country, but foreign terrorists. He's pissing everybody off. Other nations who he's shitting on. And I wouldn't even say that he's shitting on them. He's just saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to be shit on. We're not going to take your bullshit anymore, Canada, Mexico. We're not taking your fucking bullshit anymore. And this is how it is. You don't like it? Do something about it. And he's calling their bluff. And so, I've seen a lot of people kind of on the little clips that I've watched on TikTok and whatnot. And, they're like, hey, buy Canada, boycott American products. And I say, good on you, Canada. You should be buying your fucking products. You should be buying your stuff if you're in that country. The same as we should be doing. If you're an American, you should probably want to buy local too. And that shit goes both ways. And so, people can do what they want to do to try to make an impact. But when you're going up against, a country with the amount of economic might that we have, there's a lot more leverage. So, do what you do, but again, you're going to see countries one after one kind of backing down as Trump kind of asserts his plan for how things are going to be reestablished in the world order. Right.
So we have a Sam Gloves that has, I believe, joined us. Says hi to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Sylvia Gibson says, I have a great shiny hat and I wear it often. Yeah, the old tin foil, man. I mean, I don't know what I know why that came to be, but I think it's almost a badge of honor to be considered that in some regards, because the people that are usually screaming that the loudest are the ones that have the most to hide,
Yeah. So back to Sam Gloves. He says, do you have any disposable gloves? I believe plastic gloves, rubber gloves. He likes gloves.
Man, I like gloves too. I got a couple different kinds. I got some warm fuzzy ones and I got some latex ones. You might like those, sounds like. Without Training Wheels says difference between conspiracy and truth is about 6 months. I would say that that's very true if you're somebody who is willing to go and look for that and then, compare it against what you're being fed from the mainstream. Because the mainstream has the ability to try to put people back in their box for stepping outside of the box by calling you names and trying to berate you. But if you're not somebody who's afraid of having labels put upon you and you're willing to go your own way when you can see what the truth is turning out to be, then I would say that 6 month thing could fall in line, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the reason why they call you a conspiracy theorist, because they're trying to get you to that's crazy talk.
That's crazy talk. But if they can make you feel bad about what you're doing, then they don't feel bad or as bad for what it is that they're doing. Right. And they know what they're doing is wrong. Yeah.
Sam Gloves, he's a glove guy, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Man, I tell you what, I like gloves too. I like American gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like warm gloves.
Yeah. Well, welcome, dude. Yeah. Thanks, Brady, man. Thanks a lot, man. I was going to possibly send a link to the channel here just in case anybody wants to check it out. But it is a video that was made by a guy who's a pretty decent little filmmaker. And he put together this piece on the Lake Sonoma 100, kind of talking about the inspiration for that particular race and, interviewed some of the firefighters and got their take on, some of the perspective of the race and just different perspective. And I actually happen to be one of the people he interviewed in the making of that film. And it's about 13 minutes long. And I think he did a really solid job on putting together kind of a nice little piece and a narrative of this. But you got a chance to see it last night, Rebecca. What did you think?
I did. It was very nice. Very well done.
Yeah. Yeah, his name's Mike Fleischner, and he actually hasn't even released it yet. It's still a private video, but I might share the link on this channel's community page if anybody wants to look at it. Again, it's not the homesteading channel or whatever, or not homesteading content, but it does kind of explain a little bit of why I do what I do and what I did here this past weekend. And so again, thanks, Brady. Thanks for the kudos on that, man. It was a good time, except I'm sore as hell right now.
So I don't know if they know that firefighters got to run this race for free.
Yes.
And so the video kind of is highlighting firefighters and their job. And
right. It was more of a tribute kind of and a payback from the standpoint of, they've had a lot of fires up in that area, as we do here in Northern California in different places. And so the race director wanted to, tell a story around the work that the firefighters have done and how it kind of ties directly to the trail system that we all enjoy. And so again, I was approached and was asked to say a few words and such. And I was surprised he used as much of the footage of me as he did. But like I say, if you got some time to kill, I will put a link in our community page regarding that. But anyhow, pipe down. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Pipe down. It's not happening. Yeah, we should all pipe down. Let's see here. So I did have some Q&A, man. This isn't all politics tonight. I do have some Q&A from the homestead front, and I had some comments over the past week that I wanted to highlight. And man, I need to get a different phone. This thing is...
Eric came in and he said, my phone is not working. Because when it gets wet, it's a black screen. And for months now, I have been telling him, you need to get a new phone. When you've got a green line down the side and that line keeps getting a little bit thicker, it's time to get a new phone before your screen goes black.
Right.
So anyway, I had to pipe in when he came in. He goes, my screen is black.
I really should do that because I still have some content on here that I was going to put out another video on. And, you know, I mean, that kind of shit gets lost when you have a black screen and you can't access what's on your phone. So I probably do need to sometime this week, maybe go down and bite the bullet. But this is it's a Samsung S10e. And I got this back in 2020 when we were going to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And this thing is blown out, man, all cracked and everything. But this is what I shoot all my content on, is this phone right here. And yeah, it needs to be replaced.
That's pretty beat up.
Yeah, a good majority of the people in our family have iPhones, and they keep saying, "Oh, are you going to get an iPhone?" I'm like, "No, I'm getting a fucking iPhone. I don't like those things." So we're Droid folks, and we're going to stay that way. So, right?
Yeah.
Or do you want to get an iPhone? I'll be the only one without an iPhone.
No, I don't have any desire to get an iPhone. I mean, right now we.
Me neither. Yeah, I'm not a fan, but whatever. People love their technology, and they, you know, it's like Ford Chevy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Q&A, let's get to that. Let's see here. This is from HMC Srevenge. And it says, if you only have a couple of chickens and can tolerate the smell. Now let me back it up. This is in response to the video I put out about, you know, how if you do this with your chickens, you can have eggs year round. And of course, you know, eggs are quite the issue right now, for a variety of different reasons, but people are freaking out because they don't have eggs and this and that. So I put that video out because we are still like killing it on the eggs. We're getting, I don't know, what do we got? 27 hens right now. I've got a number of them that I need to kill because they're unproductive and they're old. Probably like at least 3 that I've identified right now. But how many eggs are we getting a day still?
And we're getting like 18 or 19.
There you go. So we're still selling eggs. I'm still eating eggs like every day a lot. And, you know, there's people running to the store and paying $8 a dozen or whatever. So I put this video out just because of that. Right. And this person responded to the video saying, if you only have a couple of chickens and can tolerate the smell, keep them in the house. Mine lay daily throughout the winter, and I'm in central Manitoba, Canada. And so let me ask you, Rebecca, because I've never actually asked you this. So this will be like, you know, a first for you and I.
Mm-hmm.
What would you consider keeping chickens in the house if it was going to increase our egg production?
I'd have to say no. Even though I like the chickens, I go out there, I talk to them, I encourage them to lay eggs. I try to hold them and pet them to make them friendly.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like it, by the way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
My answer is no for in the house.
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me. I got to be honest. And, you know, I just responded to this person. I said, you know, that's quite an interesting approach. And it's the first time I've heard of this practice in modern times. We haven't considered this as an option ahead of not eating eggs altogether. Good luck, my friend, and stay warm. I would consider not eating eggs at all if I had to have fucking chickens living in my house. That's just my personal opinion. You know, I think we all tend to get used to the smell of our house, what that happens to be. but that's a smell I don't think I could actually warm up to very much.
I have an answer to this.
What's that?
So when your chickens are laying, when it's warm and they're laying a lot of eggs and you can't keep up with the eggs, you freeze dry them so that you can leave your chickens outside and you eat your freeze dried eggs
Right.
all the way through until they start laying again.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Yeah, no, it's so anyhow, that was an interesting approach. And I don't even know, to what extent that would work to do. I mean, and why couldn't you put them out in a shed or something or a garage, and just, if you wanted to keep the lights on, to maybe encourage them to lay a little bit more. But yeah, that's interesting. I could see where if you were like, that was your only food source, and this was back in the day, and, chickens were quite the commodity, where, hey, this is laying eggs. This is our food supply. We're going to do everything we can to keep this beast alive and to encourage them to produce for us. That might be appropriate, but not in a fucking first world country, man. Am I living in a house with chickens? They're going to be like, doing what chickens do, which is poop a lot, and it smells terrible. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. They have chickens. I don't know if you know this, but about every 7 or 8 poops, they have what's called it's called a cecal poop. It comes out of their cecum, and it's a number of different colors. It can range from very light in color to very dark and black and tarry. And so when you see that's coming out of their cecum, and it's a way that they like purge their shit out of whatever that cecum pouch does. But it's about every 7, 8 poops, and it smells horrible.
And it's a very large amount. Yeah,
it's very like mucusy and sticky and different than their regular, excrement. Mm-hmm. And so that ain't coming in the house, man. Right? So anywho, enough on the chickens in the house. So what else did I have here? Oh, okay.
An egg a day. What's without training? Let's say about that.
What?
An egg a day right now.
He wants Brady saying, yeah, get an iPhone. I know. Android all the way. Yeah, yep. I hear you. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good camera. I don't like being on a proprietary platform where everything has to go through their way of doing things. And that's just a way that they have to kind of keep people narrowed into their ecosystem. And I don't fucking dig that.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, back to the egg a day.
Okay. An egg a day right now, out of 14 girls, cold is slowing them, plus half the flock is 3 years. It's good. That is fantastic.
I'm telling you, go out there, teach them how to be Zen. Give them up a day.
Okay.
Relax. Lay eggs.
Sylvia Gibson says the cheapest eggs near me is $4.50 a dozen. That's not bad, I guess.
That's not compared to what the eggs are here.
Yeah, that's not bad. In comparison, no chickens in my house. Hell no. DHT nursery. Yeah, I agree. And Bill says that my mother lives in northwestern Idaho, and she says eggs are selling like crazy. She's still
Oregon.
Oh, what'd I say?
Idaho.
Oh, how did that even come out?
I don't know.
Northwestern Oregon. And she said eggs are selling like crazy. She's getting more customers than eggs, and she's 81 years old. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's good to see, man. I love that when people can keep their birds laying all winter, and with whatever they're doing in their program. I know it works well for us, because it sucks when they just lay up on you because they're old or they're not really that productive to begin with.
We actually separated our birds. We kind of tagged them for the older birds and the following year, different colors. Yeah. And the older birds, which should be slowing down, are actually laying more. They're cracking. So what I'm going to actually have to do is isolate them individually. And so I can see which ones are actually producing for us. I know that I've got a few that they're not doing anything right now. And I'm going to try to butcher those this week, because I need to actually place another food order as well. Get about a ton for our chicken needs for next year. So that's probably something we need to do this week, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But no freeloaders. So here's one on the maggot bucket. This was a short that I did a while ago. And EVH 3811 says,
how do you start and maintain it? And, you know, it's a simple thing, man. It's just a 5-gallon bucket with a lid on it, and you drill holes in the bottom so the maggots will fall out, drill holes around the side in various places so the flies can get in. And then you start with something dead that'll attract flies. And it's usually ready for it to be emptied out and go again. So there's really no maintenance to it from my standpoint once I actually put something in there, because it starts stinking real bad. The maggots start coming out, and I don't generally add to it once I've loaded it. And so the maggots will do their thing. They'll process it in its entirety in about 7 days. And then really the only thing that's going to remain in the bottom of that bucket is the bones, the hide, and the hair or feathers or whatever you happen to put in there. I mean, they do an incredible amount of work processing and turning all of that protein into fly larvae, and the chickens, they benefit from that. And so I don't maintain it. It's about a 7-day process, and then I move on from there.
And it does stink.
It smells horrid. It's the worst smell ever, man. It's like a dead animal.
And it's disgusting when they're falling out of the bucket and the chickens are just going like crazy pecking at them.
It's like it's a Pez dispenser for chickens. This is one that I actually wanted to address here on the live because I wasn't going to be able to give it, due justice when, in typing a response to this person. But this was a video I put out a couple of years ago, I guess now. And this is from Nancy Coyle 7708. And it was kind of introducing the Novagen breed that we wound up getting. And then we gave kind of an initial report on what we thought of the breed, about their 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 egg production, and what we've actually learned in having these birds. And so Nancy writes, our Novagen chickens are very aggressive, great egg layers, but we'll never own them again. We have 3, and they killed one of our buffs and was working on another. Now we have to separate the buffs from the Novagens, having 2 separate coops. No, thank you. And so I just responded to Nancy. I said, sorry to hear this. It definitely can happen. And I will address this in more detail in episode 97 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And so what I would say to Nancy or anybody with chickens is some breeds are going to be a little bit more aggressive than others. I don't find Novagens to be particularly aggressive, but I will say this, that they will peck and they will find the weak link. And you're going to find that with any chickens, right? They're going to establish a pecking order. And one of the ways that this can pose a problem is if you have animals confined, you're going to find that almost with any breed, there's going to be some level of aggression toward others. Some are very docile. Now she referenced Buff Orpington, and that is a very docile breed of chicken. They're very passive in comparison to the Novagen breed. And, we've had Buff Orpingtons in with our Novagen chickens. I don't find those to be a great bird, but a lot of people like them, for whatever reason. They like their little fluffy butts and, they're kind of cute and everything. And they're a great backyard dual purpose bird. But the problem with dual purpose birds in that regard, like a heritage breed, is they don't really, in my opinion, they're not really great at either. So they're not great egg layers, nor are they great meat birds, but they can be, serviceable as both. But they are very docile. And for us, we had problems with them dying of heat and other illness and stuff like that. But they will be picked on. And
they definitely stopped laying where the Novagens continued to.
Right. They're just not very productive birds. But I will say this, that, if you have birds that can get out and they're not confined and you're not over populating that confinement. So you need to make sure you've got an adequate amount of square footage for how many birds you actually have in a coop and or run. So the recommendation is, generally speaking, and this is actually pretty small when you get down to it, it is 4 square feet per bird. And so if you start stacking more birds into a space than that, you can have that problem, particularly if you have one that's injured. If you have one that's injured or one that has the inability to evade any type of pecking order pressure, they can become an immediate target. And it doesn't really matter which breed you have. I mean, it does to some extent because some are more aggressive than others. But again, I don't find Novigins to be particularly like an aggressive bird, right?
Right. So we have 2 right now.
Yes, we do.
And I believe, one of them definitely has a broken leg. And I believe the second one has a broken leg. Don't know how it happened, but they both are getting picked on pretty bad. One, I had to check on her because I didn't know if she was dead or what. She was over in the corner with her head stuffed down in a hole. And she was not. She was actually hiding her head because as soon as I got her up and got her moving, the others came running over and just started pecking at her. So we've isolated her.
Right. But see, like if you throw a piece of like meat with chickens, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to peck it. And, young chicks will do that where they see a little red spot on another chick and then they'll start just relentlessly pecking that because they don't really know any better. And that really never goes away. When they see blood, they're going to look at it and then they're going to peck at it and they're going to be like, hey, I'm going to just keep pecking at that. And, that's what's happening with these particular chickens. But so we've got them isolated with some smaller birds right now in another coop, but they're going to be heading on the way out, right?
They're going to be dog treats.
Yep. So Bill Warner says, I never met a buff that wasn't broody more than not. The ones we had were not broody at all. No, we never had. And we had a half dozen of them mixed in with our others. Like 3 of them died in the heat. They couldn't hang. And we had a pretty hot, stretch there for a time and they just couldn't hang. I mean, that heat just took them out. And
so what is the one that I refer to as checkerboard?
A Dominique.
Yeah. So we've had her for quite some time. She seems to be doing really well.
She won't be shortly, if you know what I'm saying. She's
still laying.
Well, we'll see. But she's a 21 bird. If she's laying, she's very intermittent. She's not laying every day. So she just needs to go. And we need to thin some chicks. But anyhow, Hog says, my quail does that a lot too. Pick at something on the head. I usually then have to separate the aggressor. Yeah, I think that's just a tendency of a lot of different species or breeds of fowl. Maybe not ducks or something because they got a flat beak or whatever. But I'm no duck aficionado. I couldn't really tell you to be honest. But that's just been my experience with chickens. That's just the way they are, man. They're going to find the weak link.
Definitely.
That's one of the reasons why it's really helpful that we are able to get our birds out every day. They're just happier. They're less stressed. They have the ability to kind of do their thing and live a much happier life by getting out and doing chicken things.
They're kind of cute. They're all lined up in front of the gate waiting in the morning for that door to open up so they can get out.
Yeah. Australorps are broody. We had a couple of Australorps over the years go broody on us. Yep. We don't have any Australorps right now, but the ones that we had in the last batch of chickens we got a couple years ago, they actually sat on egg spores. And so I could concur with that for sure. Yeah, those buffs, man, I wasn't happy at all. But again, some people they're just all head over heels over buff Orpingtons, but I think they're fucking useless, to be honest. Well, not useless. I mean, they're, chicken, they do what they're doing. I'm just saying they're not as good as people claim that they are, right? From a production standpoint.
Well, at least they weren't for us.
No.
We can't speak for everyone.
You sure? We can't speak for everyone.
I don't know. We can try.
Yeah. No, I agree. You're right. And then I got one more question. Actually, it was more of a comment, I think. And this is from Rod Jindrisic, 3444. And this was on our last live stream. It says, great catching up. Thanks for pulling those clips together on the past stances on immigration. Spoke with a few folks of Mexican heritage that came here the right way through immigration. They are pissed off about all the illegals coming in and getting things handed to them. Have a great weekend and look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care. God bless. And I said, appreciate that. Those who have been through the process the right way are usually the most outspoken. And that's been my experience. People that have had to go through the process of, the years or whatever it's been in order to go through all of the different hoops to become a legitimate American citizen. Those are some of the people that are like not cool with people just pouring in across our border and getting handed a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Right.
Well, they've put in their time and they know that they're here legally. It's got to be a good feeling other than, coming over and, I don't know, just being a criminal, living their life as a criminal.
Right. Before I step away from the chicken talk here, let's see. Skanes Girl says that I put some blue coat on my Rhode Island heads so the other chickens would quit pecking on them. Yeah, that's a decent anti-peck, a no-peck type stuff. And I've tried that. I think there's some stuff that's better. I can't remember what it's called right now, but I had that and I had something else when it was the year before last. I had some chicks that started pecking one another and they were pecking their butts. And it was getting to be like half of the ones in there were getting pecked up. And so the first stuff I tried, I think it might've been the blue coat. And it wasn't really that thick, if I'm speaking correctly. I mean, I could have this backwards or something, but one of them was thinner. The other one was much thicker, and it did the trick. Whereas the other one that I got, and I got them both from Tractor Supply, but they had a couple of different options there. But certainly that is something that can happen from time to time, and people just need to be aware of that, But yep, true story, Skanes.
See what Without Training Well says.
Yeah. Blue coat works good. Just got to not spray myself. Yeah. And Skanes says that if most Americans understood what the legally had to go through to get that status, they would also.
Yeah, it's got to make them feel good.
Yeah. I mean, well, sure, you're legitimate at that point. You're a legitimate citizen and you're not living in the shadows. And so many people actually are, in this country. And I don't know. Now that I'm speaking on immigration, I think that kind of brings us back to that topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say that is Donald Trump's singular most important issue in both of his terms. And I would say rightfully so, because you have to ask yourself, what is a nation if it doesn't have control of its geographical boundaries? Right? Well,
yeah.
What is a nation if you have borders that define it geographically, but they're not enforced? What does that even mean?
What's the point of having borders? Right.
What's the point of having a lock on your front door if you're just going to let everybody come in and you have no idea who they are? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
So Skanes Girl says I wear gloves.
You know what? I'm pushing buttons here. That's
when she's
making things go weird.
When she's putting that coat on.
Well, where's the glove guy? He'd probably get excited about that.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Sam Glove would probably love to know what kind of gloves you're wearing.
Oh, man. Let's not go there. This might get out of hand. Okay. See, there we go. We'll throw it up there just so, if he's still around, he'll be interested. Let's see. It's not an easy process. People think, oh, you're married to an American. You fill out some paperwork and you're done. Nothing can be farther from the truth.
No, it's not, nor is it cheap. I think it can be actually kind of costly.
What's that, to become an American citizen?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the cost. Do you know something about it?
Trying to get over? I guess it depends on I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't have said that because I don't really have anything to back it. If you have to have an attorney to help you out, then it's expensive.
Yeah. Running Wild. I like the name. That's cool. Was my question nonsense? I don't know what your question was. What was your question, Running Wild? I don't know. But yeah. So along with this tariff talk and the border enforcement talk, Trump has been saying a lot of other things. And here's one of those things.
We are hearing that President Trump has agreed to pause tariffs on Mexico for 1 month in exchange for Mexico placing troops along the border. Let's head back out to the post from the president via Truth Social, and I do want to bring it to you here in full, as it says this. I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border, separating Mexico and the United States. These soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into our country. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for 1 month period, during which we will have negotiations headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives of Mexico. I look forward to participating in those negotiations with President Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries.
Well, I titled that video, Mexico Backs Down, because that's exactly what just happened.
Yeah.
The president of Mexico rightly understands that they're really not in a position to get in a trade war or any other kind of war with the United States of America. And that's just the reality of it. And Donald Trump realizes this quite well. And what we're all witnessing is essentially the art of the deal. And I would say that what makes this so shocking to everyone is because we never get to see how negotiations actually take place. They're hidden from us. They're hidden from public view for one very simple reason. And that's because the outcome of those negotiations usually do not benefit us, the American people. That's the true reality of it. This kind of stuff happens, but we never get to see it or hear it. And I don't think that Trump has really anything to hide, because he's coming at it from the standpoint of he wants to have America win. He wants America to be great again. These are things that he's espoused. And for some reason, people have a very hard time, and it's like something that gives them, issue, right?
Well, Trump has said the same thing from when he was very young all the way up to now. He hasn't wavered.
Right. Well, here's a view of that open negotiation. Yeah, I've never heard a president talk like this. You never saw Barack Obama get up and talk this way, or really anybody that I can recall. So here's what's taking place. And I think if you listen to the people that are in the crowd, obviously these are MAGA supporters, right? These are part of his crew, his crowd, the people that support him, that go to his rallies. But understand, those are American citizens that are there. And there's a lot of people that are cheering on not only this rhetoric, this talk, but the actions that he's taking to back it up.
Pay those countries in foreign aid. Sir, we pay them $750 million. It's a lot, not big compared to what some countries get, stupidly. But we pay them $750 million. I said, please inform them that starting tomorrow morning, they are not getting any more foreign aid. So about an hour after we informed them, I got a call from all three of them, but separate. And they said, sir, there seems to be a problem, a misunderstanding. I said, yeah, there is. For 10 years, 15 years, you wouldn't take these people that you send back, and they send them. Don't kid yourself. They don't want them in their country. They send them up in the caravan. You wouldn't take them back, right? And they said, no, that's not my understanding, but we would be very happy to talk. I said, here's the story. If you don't take them back, you'll never see anything from the United States in terms of foreign aid. Nothing.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. Every president before Donald Trump has had the ability to leverage America's interest in just the same way. Yet none of them really did that. You know, there's what we just saw, right, was an incredible amount of transparency. We're seeing those negotiations take place openly. And then, of course, he's going to follow it up with a phone call where they're going to discuss the details of what needs to take place. That's not going to be done openly, but he's proclaiming, hey, this is what we're going to be doing to you. And it's just the art of the deal. It's a negotiation.
Right. I equated it to buying a car. You go in, the price is on the car. You don't like it. So you say, hey, I'll offer you this much. And then they come back and you're like, well, all right, but you're going to throw this in and this in and this in until you guys come to an agreement of where you're willing to purchase the car.
You're 100% right. That's exactly what this is like. You know, and he's already said all this stuff. For some reason, Mexico said, oh, we're not going to send troops to the border. But, you know, today that decision was finalized, and apparently they're sending 10,000 troops along with some other concessions to the U.S.-Mexican border. To stop the illegal flow of drugs and human trafficking that's been taking place, you know, for as long as it's been taking place. Right. And, another case in point is our neighbor to the north. They had stated, oh, we're going to be implementing tariffs in retaliation to Trump's opening offer of 25% tariff. Right. That didn't happen. That didn't happen because they're really not in a position to make that happen.
25 to Canada, 25 to Mexico, and 10 to China.
Right. You know, I don't know if that's something that's not going to be used in the future because they only put a pause on those threats of the tariffs for 1 month, just to kind of, I think, see how things go. And then I think that there will be further negotiations that will be taking place. Now, if tariffs actually do happen, this isn't something that I have seen in my adult life so much that's going to affect me, but there's a lot of hand-wringing how this is going to drive up prices. It's going to cause the stock market instability, and there's going to be all this stuff that's going to happen. But what do you think is going to actually happen, Rebecca?
I think that there's going to be some negotiation coming, and I think it's going to be in our favor.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why I think Trump's doing this is because here's some figures for you, just so people will have an understanding of the position in which we hold. And so, for example, 2023, Canada sent 76%, 3/4 of all of the exports from their country come into the United States, which represents roughly 19% of their entire gross domestic product annually. So that's about 1/5 of their GDP is being used, is being supported by the consumerism of the United States. And on the other side of the border, down in Mexico, Mexico sent 78% of all of their exports. Of the totality of all of the exports that Mexico has, 78% of that comes into the United States, which makes up about 37% of their entire gross domestic product. So that's a lot of money that we are using to buy their products. And Trump is seeing that, hey, there's a real trade imbalance here. You're not reciprocating. There's things that we will want you to accept into your country, and it's just not an equal thing. And so, and Canada together, what we export to those two countries only makes up about 2.7% of our GDP.
So
And so simply put, if they do retaliate and get into a, like a tariff or a trade war with the United States, it would economically impact those two countries much harder than it would us. And Trump knows this.
So without training wheels, says Canada is good syrup.
Yeah, they've got a lot of good maple syrup and stuff. I've heard that. Yeah, they've got products. They make things in their country. And I would say to the Canadian people, they should purchase that.
They should buy it for
right?
themselves.
You don't have to buy Mrs. Butterworth's or whatever the hell we're, sending across the border for you to purchase. If you don't want to purchase American products, that's fine. But I think what they don't realize is that we actually don't need them as much as they need us. And see, there's going to be economic hardship for people on both sides. All three of these countries are going to assume some economic hardship and an increase in cost of goods and services, right? But are you able to withstand that for the long term? If you're the United States, more than likely, yes.
Yeah. William Zeckley says we've been hosed for decades.
Yeah, I think that's what Trump has been alluding to. I don't really have the inside track on to what extent, but I mean, I've done a little bit of looking into that, and I agree that that's probably, what's been happening. There's definitely a trade imbalance. We sell or accept more of their products than they accept of ours by far. Mm-hmm. And that's just what Trump is trying to illuminate and highlight and say, we got to bring this correct. We're not going to continue to subsidize you by providing you all these other things, foreign aid and, security from the standpoint of military. Right. Canada has good syrup. I love it. Yeah, they do, man. But you know what? Mm-hmm. Right? Because they got those same kind of trees. There's an interesting thing I was watching, and I'd have to play it in another video or something, but I wouldn't do justice talking about it. But it's amazing how many people actually live south of the 49th parallel. So a vast majority of the people live south of Washington and northern parts of Idaho and in our northern states. It's pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. It's actually, if Detroit is the one place where you can go south. When you go south from Detroit, you'll actually enter Canada. Think about that.
Yeah, that's a trip.
Right? You go south and you go into Canada from Detroit. So they're pretty close, but the majority of their people live very close. Their capital, Ottawa, is closer to Washington, D.C. than, their farthest part. Okay. What is going on? Let's see here. Let me get caught up on some stuff. Okay. Bill Warner says, when I lived in the UP, I had some very good syrup. I had a friend who had a sugar bush grove. Huh. What's the UP? Upper Peninsula? What is that?
I don't know.
Yeah. That's some inside baseball there, Bill. Running Wild says, if they don't set aside all the chickens and kept a few groups that didn't fall to the thing that migratory birds do, would they pass that strength to their chicks? Or is it not that simple? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I have no idea.
Lost on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. It says, I think they aren't showing. So, okay. So you're having some issue there. Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Hogs 14 says, what's mind-boggling is why we even buying basic food from foreign countries and closing up shop here, screwing our farmers, etc.
That's a very good question.
Yeah. One of the things that, again, this is doing is it's a negotiating tool by Trump threatening these tariffs. And, I think the upside is much greater than what the downside is going to be. There's going to be short-term downside, essentially, right? It might cause people to pay more for certain things, but the potential for the upside is, on the long term is much greater, I believe.
Right. So if you're just looking at what's happening right now, yeah, our costs are going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
While all this is happening, you're going to have people that are going to say, well, see, Donald Trump made things go up, not go down.
Right. Yeah. I think if you're thinking in the short term, again, then that's going to be your take from it. But you have to understand that he's using this leverage to renegotiate trade deals, looking at redefining treaties between certain nations or other various agreements between these nations, right? Mm-hmm. He's gonna start addressing things down in the Panama Canal. You're going to hear a lot more on that. These are all things that he's openly stated that he wants to do. And one of them is actually returning jobs, returning manufacturing to the U.S., which is going to, in turn, bring jobs back to this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so from what I understand, there's already a number of companies looking to reestablish, manufacturing operations here in the U.S., and that will essentially avoid the cost of any tariffs that may be imposed.
So Bill says that he can use binoculars and see Canada.
Yeah, that's I like Canada, man. I don't have anything against the people, to be honest. I mean, there's good people everywhere. I mean, I have really not much problem with people until they have issue with me for whatever reason. But yeah, Canada's a beautiful country. Has a lot of natural resources. It has a lot of natural beauty. And I'm assuming that the people that live up there, by and large, just want to be like every other person that lives everywhere else, right? They want to have their sovereignty, and they want to live a happy life, less encumbered by assholes in the government. But unfortunately, you kind of, it's like, well, it's not the same as, being born into a family, but, for some people, they're kind of attached to a certain geographical area, and they stay there for a while. And yeah, you can get up and leave and go other places, but until you become a citizen, you kind of have to return back to your country of origin, unless you want to overstay your visa somewhere.
It's kind of amazing that as you do get older, you do tend to move back to your hometown or close to your hometown.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
it's home.
Yeah, well, it's like you're nesting or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bill says, I think everyone should treat each other like they deserve to be treated. That's a fantastic. If somebody's kind to me, I'll be kind in return. I want to just be able to live my life less encumbered by other people imposing their desires upon me. And I think that if more people kept their hands to themselves, kept their, how they want to live or see things to themselves, life would be better overall, I believe. So I agree with you, Bill Warner.
Yeah, it's nice when you are out and you see somebody you haven't seen for a long time. I mean, they could keep their head down and just keep moving and not acknowledge you, but it's super sweet when they come over. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you for a long time. Give you a big hug. In that case, I ran into somebody today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Friend of yours.
Oh, nice.
Firefighter's wife.
Yeah.
Used to play music with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
So she was super sweet.
Yeah. Running wild. Yeah, I don't know if we're having a bad connection tonight or something. It's kind of weird. It's looks like I'm bumping back between Wi-Fi and being hardwired or whatever. But let us know if we're coming in good or not. Skanes Girl says it had never been that far north. I think Des Moines is probably the furthest north I've ever been.
Minnesota?
Dennis, yeah. Running Wild says, sorry if I'm spamming. Seem like they aren't showing you certain comments I make. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm almost out of stuff to talk about tonight. So if you guys have anything you would like to talk about, just throw up comments and we'll go there.
Right. And you've heard how we are and what we've done. And so it'd be really nice to hear how you guys are doing, or how you are and things that you guys are doing as well.
Right. Yeah. Hogs is saying we're a little glitchy. I don't know, man. It's the storm out there might be somehow affecting our internet connection. So if it is, I apologize for that. There's nothing that I can do other than, hope it doesn't happen next time. But yeah, thanks for that, Hogs.
Bill says, are you shipping a little bit, or is he saying are you skipping a little bit? This is my beautiful eyesight.
Yeah, it says a question. Chicken is indeed more expensive, but not as expensive as eggs. Why the disconnect? Chicken is indeed more expensive, but not as expensive as eggs. Yeah, I don't know. It's chicken. We haven't been buying any of that, so I can't really speak to that. Yeah, so Bill says, yeah, we are kind of skipping and glitching and stuff. Be lame. Sorry about that, guys. Nothing I can do here other than hope it's better next time. Okay.
Asking about chicken illness.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the question is. If you got something more, let me know.
Well, I think you might be talking about the bird flu and where they were killing a bunch of birds.
Yeah, and again, I'm not even up on that, so I can't speak on it with any clarity for sure.
However, we do know that that's what's making the cost of eggs go up.
Right. Yeah, they killed a bunch of chickens here, I guess, in California and maybe elsewhere due to the bird flu. And it's just another one of the reasons why it's good to have your own flock if you can. If you're in an area where you can have chickens, if you like eating eggs, it's just always good to have, right? Anyhow, I've got a quote that I'm going to, I guess, leave you guys with. We're going to cut it short tonight, I think. And this is a quote that kind of goes along the lines of what's taking place in our government with regard to monetary restrictions and spending. And it says, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. And do you have anything you want to add to that, Rebecca?
Do not save what is left after spending,
but spend what is left after saving.
To me, that sounds like spend your money, don't save it.
No, it says, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after you save. So save first and then.
Okay. So I misunderstood it, but yes, that's something that, as our kids were growing up, I had always said that they should have a few months of savings set aside before they go out and they spend, so that if something happens, they've got money to fall back on. Right. So that kind of sounds like what this quote is trying to put out.
That's exactly what it's saying. And, don't just like go out and live life and then, I've got a few pennies left. I will put that into savings. Prioritize your savings first, and then whatever you have left, then you spend that. And, you'd probably be successful if you could adhere to that. And that's a quote that came from a guy you may have heard of, maybe not. His name's Warren Buffett. I think he's probably about the 4th or 5th richest dude in the world. And those are words of wisdom. And I think that if people were to factor that into how they approach life, they wouldn't find themselves to be struggling as much as they do. Look to the future and look to build toward that. And, money isn't everything, but money certainly can provide you a lot of options with how you lived your life. And when you do have things that come across the wire, such as tariffs, that are going to raise the cost of goods and services. If you're somebody who lives paycheck to paycheck and you are living on the razor's edge financially, then you're not going to be willing or able to absorb, those types of fluctuations. We've seen over the past number of years an incredible amount of inflationary growth, and everybody's felt the pain from that, whether it's at the gas pumps, whether it's at the grocery bill. Everybody's experienced that. And again, it's nice to be able to have positioned yourself in a way that those types of fluctuations that are going to occur as soon as it's night and day, we're always going to have the ebb and flow of the economy. And so you want to be able to stay in a position where you can absorb those changes. So if gas is now $6 a gallon instead of what you were used to paying $3 a gallon, you're able to absorb that and still put food on your table. Mm-hmm. And so that's where that quote really hits home for me is, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving.
Yeah. So another thing that I've also passed on to the kids, and I think I probably said in one of the programs, is when you are making payments to something and you pay it off, to then put that into savings, because you're already living without that. So the very first day of the month, you say you're making a $200 car payment and you've already paid off your car. That $200 you've already been living without. So just put it straight into savings and build your savings from that, which is nice. And instead of allowing it to go into your account and then you start to depend on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Without training wheels, save first, cut from there. Yep. Pay yourself first. And again, I apologize for the internet troubles we're having. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to call it an evening, just because the broadcast is cutting in and cutting out. But I do want to thank everybody for joining us tonight for episode 97. And we look forward to seeing y'all next week. Hopefully we'll have something entertaining to bring to you. But do you have any final words of encouragement or words of enlightenment, Rebecca?
I would say go out, enjoy your friends and family, keep them close to your heart. For me, my oldest brother is turning 80 in another few days, and I cherish that. Growing up, he was more like a second father, because there's a pretty good age gap between us. And then as we grew, he went from being more like a father to being my big brother. And so I absolutely cherish that. So yeah. I suggest that everyone else out there enjoy your family.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is short, man. I mean, it's amazing how quickly it gets to the point where you're looking back through the rearview mirror, like realizing, gosh, life was short. Because when you're looking forward and you're trying to go somewhere, it always seems like it takes longer than when you're actually you're at that destination, or you're at that point in life, and you look back and you go, man, 30 years, that went by quick. Mm-hmm. And so again, I think those are words, well taken. And I think that we would all do well to spend a little bit more time doing that. So again, guys, thanks for tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes. Have a great evening.
Let's see if I can do this. Man, things are really glitching out. How do I even make this stop? I can't get it over there. There it is. Okay.
You're really sounding like a brain surgeon.
Okay. Good night, y'all.